Hi, I'm Mary.
And I'm Katie, and this is The Housewife Did It.
True Crime Edition.
Yeah, I don't have any real time true crime. I thought I did. I saw this reel and I was like, and I started writing it. And then I Googled for the news story and it was from 2019. And I was like,
Oh,
never mind.
damn.
So I got nothing.
Yeah, unfortunate.
All right. You ready for me to just jump in? Do we got anything to say first?
Mm. If you haven't seen our bonus episode on YouTube, go watch that. Also, if you haven't listened to last week's True Crime episode, apparently it was life-changing for Katie's husband.
Really?
So highly recommend
Yeah.
that.
If you listened to our pop culture, you already heard this, but if not, we are going to be together next weekend
Yes.
in person.
Yes.
So that fun also.
So
So,
excited.
all right. On June 3rd, 2011, 20-year-old Indiana University student Lauren Spierer disappeared after a night out with friends. Camera footage followed her route until 2:51 a.m., where it showed her exiting an alleyway. The story is that witnesses saw her alive until 4:30 a.m. when Lauren started walking home alone with no shoes, no phone, no purse, no keys. So intoxicated that she could barely walk. But she never made it home. And today, 13 years later, Lauren has still never been found and her case remains unsolved. So, we're going to sleuth today. On June 2nd, the semester had just ended at Indiana University. IU was known for being a huge basketball college, but also a big party school, which frankly doesn't really mean much. Like, most schools are
Yeah.
big party schools.
I went to a big party school.
Yeah.
And it was a small school. So.
And the religious school.
Yeah. But it was heavy on the parties.
Yeah. But at IU, this was made easier by the fact that the bars and the majority of student housing were within 3 to 5 minutes walking distance of one another. So,
Safe party.
yeah. Not for Lauren, but yes.
Clearly.
But yeah, I mean, I think that is good for the driving population, but so much drinking. Lauren Spierer was 20 years old, studying textiles merchandising at IU. She was a small girl at 4'11 and about 95 pounds.
Oh, teeny tiny.
Mm-hmm. She also had a rare heart condition called long QT syndrome, which causes fast and chaotic heartbeats and is known to lead to fainting in some cases. That night, Lauren was at her apartment drinking wine with her friends while they watched the NBA Finals. While watching, she got 2 texts from her friend Jay Rosenbaum asking her to come by his place for a party. And the party was just 2 blocks away at 5 North Townhomes, which is where he lived. She was also texting her boyfriend, Jesse Wolf, who was at his own place watching the same finals. Jesse was 22, and he and Lauren had been together for 3 years. By all accounts of people around them, Jesse was a good and attentive boyfriend. Lauren told Jesse that she was going to be heading to bed soon, and he told her that if she wakes up, to call him and they could talk. So I guess he maybe knew he'd be up a little longer, or maybe he was like, "You can wake me up. I don't mind." A friend of the couple says that this was around midnight, shortly before Lauren would leave her apartment, around 12:30. We don't have access to the exact texts, so we don't know, but rest assured, law enforcement does. So there's a lot of things in this case that law enforcement has that we don't. And in some ways that's very normal. For a 13-year-old case, it's less normal. I feel like you could share some things, but
yeah.
So here's the timeline after that. At 12:30, Lauren was seen on camera at her apartment it's called Smallwood Plaza, heading out for the night. She left with her friend David Rohn to go to Jay's party. They met up with some other mutual friends of Jay's who Lauren had recently met, named Corey Rossman and Michael Beth. We're going to call him Mike. Lauren had known Jay for years, but had been introduced to Corey and Mike only in the last few weeks. And they also lived at 5 North Townhomes, just in like a different unit. David Rohn did not stay at the party very long, and he was seen on camera entering Smallwood Plaza again shortly after they had left for the party, and he did not leave again until the daytime at 11 a.m. Jay would later tell people that he remembers either Lauren or David Rohn telling him that they had snorted Klonopin and done cocaine, but he could not remember which one told him that. Klonopin is an anti-anxiety medication. It is also a seizure medication. It is recommended to avoid drinking while taking Klonopin, and it has a heavy sedating effect. That's what it's used for.
I'm pretty sure that's the name of the dog in Anyone But You.
Interesting.
Double check.
So I think that like it's maybe common, I don't really know, but I think that it is maybe common recreationally for people to take kind of like a sedative with cocaine, which like doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but like maybe did one and then I don't know. So that's what Jay thinks happened. It is also reported, I guess we don't know like how drunk Jay was at this point, but like do you find it weird that he can't remember between like a 95-pound girl and this dude like who told him this, or is that like he just like forgot? It was a busy night.
I think it really does depend on how drunk he was, because I mean like in college there were like a couple times where like I do not remember getting from point A to point B, like don't remember anything in between that. So I think it's also possible to like remember hearing something but not remember like the details or like where you heard it, or like maybe you think you heard it from one person but you don't want to say 100% that you did.
Yeah. And I think that what Jay is saying is that whoever told him was saying both Lauren and David did this. So like if David said it, he said Lauren and I did this, and if Lauren said it, she said David and I did this. So I think he
it
still
doesn't really
knows
matter
like what the story is.
Yeah.
He just isn't sure whose mouth it came out of.
Yeah.
It is also reported that while at the party, Corey Rossman was telling people that he was hoping to hook up with Lauren that night. Now, next question for you. Based on just that, do we think that Lauren was like purposely misleading her boyfriend, knowing that she was going out right after telling him she was going to bed? Or do we think maybe she really was planning to go to bed, then she got those texts and she was like, I'll go out, and then she just didn't tell him? Like,
she went by herself
with this David guy.
No. I don't know. I think it could be either way. I think, especially when you're 20 years old, maybe you're like, I'm ready for bed, but then you get FOMO and you're like, well, I don't want to miss it.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Well, I just like always wonder it because like throughout the night, like not at all like to shit on her, but I think throughout the night, like you wonder like if Corey wants to hook up with her, like is she interested in the same thing? In which case, like maybe she did like lie and say like I'm going to bed, knowing she was gonna go out. But
I think given the fact that her boyfriend said like you can call me if you wake up, it's odd that she wouldn't say like I changed my mind.
I'm actually not going to bed.
I'm going out. Yeah.
So around 1:30, Corey Rossman and Lauren started walking to Kilroy's sports bar and are seen walking in around 1:46. This is supposed to be about a 3 to 5 minute walk, like I said, so I'm not sure if the estimated time of 1:30 was just like, it was around 1:30, or if these two were so intoxicated already that it was taking them 16 minutes to get somewhere that should take 5, or if they were making some stops along the way.
Yeah.
I don't know. But Corey said that his goal at Kilroy's was to have 3 more drinks and then he would be feeling good. I feel like he was already feeling pretty good.
I feel like he wasn't feeling much at all.
Oh. Yeah, but like also I think that's like also like very college culture to like know exactly how many drinks get you where you want to be, and you're like, gotta hit my number, like I know myself. So Kilroy's is kind of like a sports bar meets club vibe. And it has this patio that is like a beach. And so
This sounds like my nightmare.
mm-hmm.
This sounds like how I felt when I went to Tin Roof for the first time.
This
I hate it.
next part is my nightmare. So it is common that people just take their shoes off because they want to walk in the sand at the beach.
No.
Okay, fine. Not at a fucking club, I don't.
No.
No, I do not want to do that. So likely Lauren did this, took off her shoes, hung out in this sand area. We know that she took them off because when she and Corey are seen leaving 41 minutes later, she is barefoot. Later, it will also be discovered that she left her phone behind at Kilroy's. Witnesses around that night remember that Lauren was very unsteady leaving Kilroy's and that she needed Corey's help to walk. And I'm guessing in 41 minutes he was able to get his 3 drinks in. Great. Great for him. At 2:27, they are heading back to Lauren's apartment at Smallwood Plaza. Between 2:30 and 2:42, police have surveillance of Corey and Lauren entering her apartment complex, and they run into a group of boys at the elevator. These guys happen to be friends with Lauren's boyfriend, Jesse Wolf, and they could, just like other witnesses, tell that Lauren was very drunk, and so they offered to help her. They're like, hey, dude, what you doing? We can take it from here. We got this. And he said, no, I've got this handled. So one of the guys, Zach Oates, claims that Corey cursed at him. I don't know. Probably they just were like yelling at each other. So Zach punched him in the face. He split Corey's lip and possibly impaired Corey's memory. However, after this altercation, Lauren and Corey did not continue up to her room. They turned around and they headed back outside. What in the fuck? Meanwhile, Jesse is reporting that he fell asleep around 2:30 a.m. So around the time that this kerfuffle is happening, Jesse happens to be falling asleep. There are witnesses and surveillance of their walk back to 5 North townhomes. A woman saw Lauren fall and hit her head on concrete steps. When the woman checked on her, Corey again told her that he had it handled and that Lauren was fine. I don't think she is, buddy. Police say, I think that this part is important to note because by all accounts, him helping her walk, him speaking to these people, it seems that Corey is much less intoxicated than Lauren.
Yeah.
So I think just like keeping that in mind, that these are not people on like the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Police say that some surveillance from their walk actually shows Lauren fall and land directly on her face because she was too drunk to even reach her hands out in front of her to catch herself. Between 2:48 and 2:51, cameras show them walking down an alleyway toward the townhomes, and this is the last known footage to catch Lauren Spierer. When Corey and Lauren walked into Corey's place, probably around 3 a.m., Mike Beth says that he was up working on a term paper. So I guess the semester wasn't completely over for everybody. Or that's sus. But I think that's normal. Like people have
He's
different
getting a head start on the next semester.
mm-hmm. But I think people like I would be completely done and like Emma, like my
Yeah.
roommates are still working on stuff. So I think just who knows. He remembers that both Corey and Lauren were very drunk, and pretty quickly after coming in, he says that Corey threw up all over the stairs. Mike took him to bed, but then Mike was alone with Lauren, who he really doesn't know that well, and she is very drunk. And he said, "I'm uncomfortable." And he says that she kept inviting him back to her apartment to keep drinking with her. I just don't know
that sounds like something I would have done though as a drunk person.
I agree at a certain level of drunk.
Yeah.
The level of drunk that we are saying this girl is, she's not even sticking her hands in front of her. I don't know that she's like, I want to keep drinking.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe she threw up on the stairs.
Yeah.
Like I'm stressed. I'm
Yeah.
I'm like feeling like this girl's got to be nonverbal at this point.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But maybe she's just like, come back with me. He says that he called Jay Rosenbaum because this is Lauren's longtime friend. He said, "Can you please come take care of this girl?
Yeah, it's just with your party, dude.
This is not my problem."
Yeah.
I'm working on my paper. Get her
He
out
said,
of here.
Not my circus and not my monkeys.
Yeah. Please come over, Jay. Eventually, reportedly around 3:30, Lauren did walk back over to Jay's townhome, or Jay came to get her. I'm not really sure. I'm assuming she did not just walk by herself over to the townhome. So he retrieved her. Jay says that she was in really bad shape, that she had a large bruise on her eye, consistent with the fall caught on tape, and that she did not remember how she got it. He says that he tried to convince Lauren to stay on his couch, but she insisted on walking home. There are records that show 2 calls from Jay's phone to friends of Lauren's. The first was to David Rohn, the guy that she came to the party with, who she and the blah, blah, blah. And the other call is unknown to us. People suspect that this means it was to Jesse and that like the police don't want to tell us that. I don't really know what would make the police not want to tell us who the call is to.
Yeah.
I feel like calling her boyfriend is like commonsensical. Like I don't think that's like weird in any way. But either way, presumably he was trying to help her get a ride or someone to walk her home. Neither call picked up and Jay didn't leave any messages. It's possible that Lauren made these calls herself since she didn't have her phone. I find it unlikely that she's capable of dialing or looking through contacts at this moment. So I think it's likely that Jay dialed them, maybe even put them on speaker. But then Jay says, because she refused to stay on his couch, that around 4:30, Lauren started walking home, and the last he saw her was on 11th Street walking toward College Avenue with no keys, no purse, no phone, and no shoes. So I don't know how she's getting into her apartment.
Yeah.
But okay. It seems that surveillance cameras at 5 North Townhomes were not working that night. And also, there were cameras all along Lauren's route home, but none of them caught her. And then Lauren never made it home that night. So, generally speaking, how do you feel about these recollections of events?
I think it is very unfortunate that someone went missing and the only thing we have to show for it is a bunch of drunk, basically teenagers.
Boys.
Like, I feel like it's hard to piece anything together with that.
And it is, I mean, you are right in that it's like hard to know what's a lie and what's people are incapable of remembering because they too were drunk.
Yeah. I think like the big parts of it seem to like line up. like
Mhm.
where she was, and like it's just little details. But when somebody's missing, like all the little details really matter.
Mhm. Once awake that next morning, or I guess that same morning, Jesse started calling Lauren, but he wasn't getting any responses until finally someone answered, but it was not Lauren. It was an employee at Kilroy Sports Bar, letting him know that this phone had been left behind at the bar the night before. Jesse went and found Lauren's roommate and got her keys to check on Lauren back at their apartment, but when he went in, no one was inside. He called Lauren's parents and then reported Lauren missing around 4:30 in the afternoon that day. The following day, Lauren's parents had made it to Bloomington, Indiana, and shortly after, the searches began. Jesse, Lauren's parents, and large groups of volunteers were conducting searches 3 times a day. After the first 2 days of searching, Jesse Wolf's parents came to Bloomington and took him back home. They said, no more. On June 7th, investigators searched Lauren's apartment and found a very small amount of cocaine, as well as the bottle of her heart condition medication. This worried her parents even more because this could mean that even if Lauren was currently okay, she's at very high risk without her medication. On the 8th, divers searched Lake Monroe but didn't find anything. A week later, the Bloomington police released footage from a nearby apartment complex which showed a white truck driving by twice within 10 minutes of Lauren's last sighting. In fact, although the police say they had a good bit of surveillance from the night, they only released 2 blurry still images. One was of this white truck, and the other is of Lauren leaving her apartment originally at the beginning of the night at 12:30. So that's all we have. They tell us we have footage of her falling, we have footage of them at the elevator, but we don't have access to any of that. Some thought that they could see what looked to be the body of a small girl covered in the back of the truck, which I think just like as a sentence sounds like a reach.
Mm-hmm.
It's the body of a small girl, but it's covered. It could be anything.
Yeah.
That's about 4 foot 11 inches. However, later the police ruled this truck out after finding it and determining that it was not connected. In fact, they had discovered that the truck was not actually seen twice on camera, but that the cameras had made some sort of mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I that is all the information I have on that, and that haunts me all the time.
Yeah.
The cameras did what? Like
What
they
did they
glitched
do?
and you saw a truck driving in like two different directions. I'm so confused.
Yeah.
It was not long into the investigation before the boys who Lauren had spent her early morning with on June 3rd had lawyered up. Jay gave 2 statements to the police and gave them access to his cell phone. Corey Rossman's lawyer explained that Corey could not remember the events of that time period because he sustained significant memory impairment following being punched in the face. Some witnesses shared that Jay had visitors in from his hometown in Michigan that weekend. And some say that they saw some guys at 5 North Townhomes packing up their vehicle and leaving in the morning of June 3rd. This has not been confirmed, but it has also not been denied. So my guess is that the police have spoken to these guests, or at least
Mm-hmm.
to whoever Jay told them was there.
Yeah.
Over the next few months, many bodies would be found around Indiana that ended up not being Lauren. Like a lot. I was like
That's
writing them
funny.
down, like in this month, a body was found in this month. And then I was like, I can't name all of these. Like, this is
Yeah.
a lot. Police also received a tip that some guys were throwing trash away the morning after Lauren's disappearance at 5 North Townhomes, or the morning of Lauren's disappearance. It's unclear if these were also Jay's guests that were seen packing up, like if they were throwing trash away and then packing the truck, or what. But this led investigators to searching the landfill where Bloomington garbage would end up on August 16th. They sifted through over 4,000 tons of trash over a 9-day period, but they found nothing helpful. Someone else reported being told by a local man, well known in the Bloomington area and homeless at the time, that he heard a woman scream around 4:35 a.m. on June 3rd. This man, named Franklin, actually passed away a few days after her disappearance, so this was not confirmed and no further information could be gathered. Now, this man probably had numerous risks in his life, but a few days after this girl goes missing and you talking about it, and this man winds up dead behind a dumpster, I'm
Behind a dumpster is extremely suspicious.
that's weird. I don't like this. Not my man Franklin.
I love that name.
Interestingly, any tips coming in from the immediate area could have definitely been accurate as to the time, because there was a large backlit clock right within the view of like mostly anyone in that area. So the podcast I was listening to that covered this, or one of them, they were like, it was Derek Levasser, and he said, does this homeless man like have a phone? Like, how did he know what time it was? And they're like, no, like there's this giant clock that like everyone can see. So like everyone who's saying like, and it was about this time, like they very likely had it right.
Yeah, they just looked up.
Yeah. On September 15th, police were able to confirm that Lauren was let into the bar with a fake ID. I do feel like this was fairly obvious. If they knew, I mean, I don't know anything about Kilroy's, but if the police knew that it was a 21 and up bar and she's 20, I feel like it's obvious that that's how she got in.
Yeah.
But they went one step further, saying that they now have access to the ID and that no reasonable person could have believed that it was Lauren. Now, this doesn't make Kilroy's responsible for harm that came to Lauren hours after she left the bar, but it certainly does not look good.
Yeah.
It's disappointing. Her parents have wondered if perhaps she had been drugged at Kilroy's, which could certainly implicate Corey, especially if he was the one getting her drinks. With rumors of drug use earlier in the night and a large amount of alcohol in a small girl's body, it's not really unreasonable to believe that she could have been in this state without being drugged, like just from those factors alone. But it's also not unreasonable to consider that she could have been drugged, because we don't actually know how many drinks she had or like how quickly she went from buzzed to like can't walk. We also don't know if there was drug use at the party, if it was consensual on her part.
Right.
So maybe if David said, we just had some Klonopin, maybe Lauren doesn't know she just had some Klonopin and now she's sedated. But then David left, so I feel like David's not like drugging her just to see what happens.
Yeah.
We also must consider Corey's intentions for the evening, which seemed to include hooking up with Lauren, and that he would later be seen bringing her back to her apartment. On January 17th, 2012, Lauren's 21st birthday, her parents made a statement that they did not believe she was abusing drugs, but that the people she was with did not have her safety and best interest at heart. In fact, later in the summer of 2013, Lauren's parents filed a negligence lawsuit against Mike Beth, Corey Rossman, and Jay Rosenbaum, saying that they owed Lauren a certain duty of care. They claimed that her status of intoxication was a result of their negligence and continuing to provide her with substances after she became visibly intoxicated, which is like fair morally. Because they were suspicious of these boys' involvement, they also hoped that a civil case would force the boys to provide testimonies and further information that could, in the long run, help them find Lauren. Early on, Mike Beth was dropped from the suit because he did not give her any alcohol, and in the end, he brought Lauren to her friend to care for her,
Mm-hmm.
supposedly. But I think that's fair. What do you have thoughts on this?
Um, I don't know that I would agree that they had like a duty to like
Yeah.
care for her. Um,
Like if
I
they were
think
like
it's shitty that they
her
didn't.
parents, yeah, I think if
Yeah,
they were like well older than her, like, but they're like her
yeah.
peers, you
They're
know?
college boys who are also intoxicated. I think
Hmm.
it's shitty that they didn't care better for her, but I wouldn't say they had a duty to. I do think though that the the part that I would agree with is that if they could see that she was already like seriously impaired, that they caused danger to her
Hmm.
by continuing to supply her with any kind of substances. And I think that like it again, I don't think it's like their duty to like
Hmm.
keep her away from those substances, but I think that like if you know that someone is intoxicated and you are knowingly adding to that, that is unsafe, and
And
you
they
should
have a
know
heart
better.
condition.
Right, and you should know better than to
Hmm.
put them in, you're putting them in a more dangerous situation.
Yeah,
I think that's different from like just not getting someone out of a dangerous situation.
sure. The judge did end up throwing out this suit, in part because the court can't presume someone dead for 7 years. So the result of this alleged negligence was
Mhm.
unclear. I mean, other than like the result being that she's missing,
Yeah.
like they couldn't say like you caused her death or,
Mhm.
Corey Rossman later came out contradicting his lawyer's previous statements, saying that he never had memory loss and he never claimed that he had memory loss. But and I guess technically he didn't. Your lawyer does kind of speak for you though.
Yeah.
But he doesn't follow this up by explaining any of his memories from the night.
Yeah. Should have
So
kept that one in the vault, friend.
yeah, why are you saying that? It's like someone was like, "That's suspicious. He has memory loss." So he's like, "No, I don't even." And then they're like,
I
"Oh, okay.
don't
So
even.
what do you remember?"
I don't even.
I don't. Well, now it's been a year. I don't know. Of the boys from June 3rd, Corey is the only one who has never spoken to Lauren's parents, and he actually claims that they have harassed him. Once, when their private investigator came to try to speak with him, he called the police on them. Also, around this time, in fact, on the 2-year anniversary of Lauren's disappearance, Jesse Wolf's parents made a public statement. Alan and Nadine Wolf had previously been vocal that Jesse had nothing to do with Lauren's disappearance. They cited the fact that he had taken and passed a polygraph test, but this didn't completely rid people of suspicion because this was a privately administered polygraph test. Actually, almost all of the boys had taken and reportedly passed privately administered polygraph tests. Nadine stated that the only thing Jesse was guilty of was taking care of Lauren, who had some serious drug issues. She would abuse to the point where she would black out. Jesse always threatened to call her parents, and she said, "If you do, I'll break up with you." Nadine went on to allege that the summer camp that Jesse and Lauren had first met at had actually kicked her out because of her drug use. So 3 years prior is her claim. Though this seems especially cruel to say publicly on the second anniversary of this girl's disappearance, and about a girl who is unable to defend herself, this is obviously not the first that we've heard about possible drug use with Lauren.
Mhm.
Again, Jay says that someone told him that Lauren and David had used cocaine and Klonopin. The police did find a small amount of cocaine in her room. And according to records, Lauren did have a previous public intoxication arrest. This does not a drug problem make, but it is important to know. I find it unlikely, but not impossible, that someone who is aware of and takes at least a little bit of care of their heart condition is just like very frequently using drugs.
Mm-hmm.
But
And nothing's happening.
well, especially cocaine, I guess. I should be
Yeah.
clear that like I find that hard to believe that she's like taking heart medication. She like cares a little bit, but then she's like a daily cocaine user, apparently, according to these people. But it is also not unheard of for people to experiment with drug use in college, to become intoxicated publicly, or to black out. So, like,
Mhm.
the fact that those are things she has done are really not like concerning.
Yeah.
What do you make of Alan and Nadine?
Hmm. I hate um parents who can't let their sons be held responsible for their actions.
Mm-hmm.
Um or potential actions. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're telling me for 3 years your kid was worried about his girlfriend and was like threatening to tell her parents she had a drug problem, but her saying I'll break up with you was enough for him to not follow through?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's that
So
scared of a
now,
breakup?
so now it's like okay that she's like probably dead. That's
Yeah,
better than her just like dumping you.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I just like it's like my least favorite part of true crime. And it's almost always boy parents
Yeah.
who are like, it's not his fault. She was a piece of shit.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I get this like age group, but this is like very common that it's like so and so's parents wouldn't let him talk to the Spierer family or so and so's parents. And I'm
Yeah.
like, they're adults. Like
He's 22 years old.
holding their parents like accountable for everything, like the fact that they wouldn't take a which I don't really like polygraph tests, so I don't really care, but the fact that like these people wouldn't take police polygraph tests or wouldn't speak to the FBI, like or whatever, the police, like that like isn't the parents. Like the boys could
Yeah.
just do it.
Yeah.
I think you should listen to the advice of lawyers, but like saying like, well, their parents wouldn't let them, like
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah, I think it's true. Like he's 22. He's been with this girl since he was 19. If he really thought like she's going to end up dead from her drug use or this is like so bad, like he didn't have to be with her. He could have
Yeah.
risked that and told her parents. The family's PI, Mike Caravolo, I don't know, who had actually worked on the Zodiac Killer Task Force in 1990,
Ooh.
confirmed. I know, so fancy. He confirmed that for Jesse Wolf, his parents and particularly his dad had been running interference for him the whole time. He said it was very difficult for investigators to speak to Jesse without Alan getting involved or calling an end to it. And of course, he states that Corey Rossman was never cooperative at any point in the investigation. Police also had to consider that Lauren did begin walking home from Jay's, and because she was alone, small, and very intoxicated, she could have been an easy target for a dangerous individual in the area. There were some outside players and known predators who were being considered in this case. So, first, William Clyde Gibson was already on death row for two murders that he committed in 2002 and 2012. Gibson had killed two women after meeting them in bars in Indiana and Ohio. At the time, he was being considered for a third murder, which he is now serving an additional 65 years for. He eventually confessed to that third murder that was from 2000 and was also in Indiana, and he has done various death row documentaries and interviews where he has now stated that he is responsible for over 30 murders across multiple states. Boy, no, you
Mhm.
ain't. I mean, like, not that 3 murders don't make you, like, bad enough, but stop. Another man known around campus as the Creeper
Oh, good.
was Daniel Messel. He would approach women frequently, usually with the ruse that he could offer them a safe ride home so that they didn't have to keep walking in the dark. This is the weird part to me is that, like, I don't know what you're picturing when I say that, but I'm picturing, like, he's like 29. He's like a little older than them. He's a little weird. No, this is like an old ass man. Like, he's like fucking 50
Yeah.
and like offering these women, like, how does that work?
Yeah.
Um, so women did come forward sharing that they were either approached by Messel or some had even gotten into his car and were sexually assaulted. Investigators have created a map of an area coined Messel's Zone of Danger,
No. No, no, no. I don't like that.
which of course included the area that Lauren was last seen that morning. Why is
Mm-mm.
this man walking the streets if you got to have
Bad.
a danger zone for him? The
Bad,
fuck?
bad, bad.
Ugh. Investigators have found porn on Messel's computer depicting men having sex with drunk or unconscious women. Later, Messel was connected to the 2015 abduction and murder of IU student Hannah Wilson. He later pled guilty to a 2012 attack on a 22-year-old Bloomington resident and was sentenced to 15 years for battery resulting in serious injury. I think I keep my eyes out for Daniel Messel.
Mhm.
He's
That's
he's on my
suspicious.
list. hmm Corey Hammersly, what
What?
a cool name, was a former Indiana University student who was well known around town as the Naked Bandit.
No. It
This
feels like I feel like I'm in an episode of Community. Like all these fucking nicknames, like the ass crack bandit. Like, stop.
this guy is not on the list of people that did it, so we can laugh at his naked banditness. Okay. In May of 2012, he says that he allowed his friend to administer liquid LSD into his mouth, causing him to get very high and essentially black out. The police then arrested him that night because he was running around naked shooting cars.
With
Where
a
you
gun?
got a firearm? Yeah. Does he even remember acquiring a firearm? But anyway, that's irrelevant, kind of. But it is said that while he was in jail, he confessed to another inmate when, like, Lauren popped up on the TV that he knew the guys involved with Lauren Spiere's disappearance. He says that she overdosed on ecstasy and the friends that she was with freaked out and threw her into the Ohio River. But he later claimed that he did not say that. However, this was certainly still a theory that was worth
Mhm.
considering. So,
Ain't
there's
no way he
also,
remembers.
yeah, but I also, oh, well, he wasn't naked that night.
Oh. Okay.
That was like, that's just how he ended up in jail, just for
Okay.
context.
That's
Yeah.
why they call him that.
Yes, that's,
Okay.
yeah. Um, you might like this part. There's also a camp of people who think that this could be connected to a very notorious and prolific serial killer,
Israel Keys.
Israel Keys. It is said that
I
Keys.
love that Israel Keys is now a catch-all for
hmm
mystery, like
Yeah,
crimes. Like they're like,
I
we
think
have
it's
no
like
idea. Could be Israel Keys.
because of the true crime bullshit podcast who like just covers Israel Keys, but they like are like could be this one. Like I think they really do kind of like go through everyone and be like he could have done all these.
Yeah.
But it is said that Keys was near Bloomington at the time. He was visiting his mother, and he was known to commit his crimes in conjunction with family visits. And his mother lived 3 hours from Bloomington. He was unaccounted for about 12 hours and then reappeared the next morning. He arrived at his mother's in the afternoon of June 3rd. No hotels were identified that he stayed in. As most people know, Israel Keyes is known for burying kill kits around the country to use in his murders. And in December of 2007, so about 4 years before this, Keyes rented a car near Bloomington, put a significant amount of miles on the car, and possibly buried a kill kit. The person who was with him claims that during this '07 trip, he did disappear for a few hours and said he was going to bury weapons.
It's normal.
Yeah. I feel like you love a good serial killer theory sometimes.
Sometimes. Not
I
when it's
think
Israel
that,
Keys.
but I think you more than me are like I'm like it's got to be the people closest to them, and
Yeah.
you are more like it could be a serial killer. So
You
what do
never
you
know.
think of these? Any of
I
these?
actually, when you said like that they had to consider that like it was a dangerous person, I was like, I don't think so in this case. Like, I think that she, like, her friends just were shitty, and something happened to her, and they got rid of her. Um, but there's always a possibility.
Yeah.
I do think that the creepy guy,
Yeah.
knowing that he
Yeah.
existed at that time, like, you
Yeah.
gotta at least consider that.
Yeah, and like within like 1 to 3 years of her disappearance, he's killing other 20-year-old IU students,
Right.
girls. Yeah, I think he's probably the most likely to me, like
Mhm.
Daniel Messel. I think where I'm like stuck is that there were multiple working cameras on her way home,
Yeah.
and she ain't on none of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so before she even made it to the first camera, she had already been snatched. Which is like possible, right? Like she's so
Yeah.
drunk she's fallen on her face, like she could have fallen before she even made it. But he's saying he saw her get all the way down to the end of the street. So I'm like,
Right.
I don't know about that.
I also think like one thing that always like holds me back from thinking it is like someone that knows them is like if these like sloppy drunk boys,
Yeah, sure.
something happened to her, they did something to her, like how she never been found, how they get rid of her so, like, I don't know what to
Mhm.
say, but like
Yeah.
how they were so careful,
Yeah,
I
right.
guess, about getting rid of her, if that's what happened. Like,
Yeah,
I don't understand how that's possible. I mean, it's possible, but like it doesn't
sure.
seem likely for like a one-time thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people think there's a lot of water. Like the
Yeah.
big Ohio River, there's like a lot of and the Ohio River runs like pretty much everywhere. So I
Mhm.
think people have actually even said like um the guys leaving Jay's the next morning like literally would have had to drive like along the river, so like it
Yeah.
wouldn't have even like alerted pings or anything like to do that. um I don't know, but I do think like for the stranger thing, like it's just like it's a 3-minute walk. Like
Right.
I just have a hard time with the odds. Now again, someone as drunk as her, like maybe it's a 10-minute walk. So like you open your odds up a little bit. But yeah, I don't know.
Maybe she stopped throw up at some point.
Yeah, or like she could have fainted, or she could have fallen on her face again and someone stopped to help her and then, I
Yeah.
don't know. But as you were alluding to, the more commonly accepted theories surround the people in Lauren's life. Some think it could be Jesse Wolfe. that maybe after finding out from Zach that Lauren was out drunk with Corey Rossman when he thought she was asleep, that he was angry and he went out to find her. I do find it interesting that the time he says he fell asleep
Mm-hmm.
coincides perfectly with the time that his friends were finding her.
Right.
Like, that feels like an alibi to me.
Right.
That
Like
it's
that's a
like,
significant time to him because that's
yeah.
when he heard it.
Or that he's like, all right, like, I got to account for myself. I have to have been asleep, obviously at 4:30,
Yeah.
because I can't have been anywhere near her. But I, like, I don't know, but I'm gonna have fallen asleep early enough. And I think if you consider that one, like, he could have been waiting near 5 North Townhomes for her. He could have been waiting at her apartment. Again, that doesn't really answer how no cameras caught her.
Yeah.
But he also could have maybe driven by and he's her boyfriend. He said, "Get in the car." And she said, "Oh, cool.
Mhm.
Take me home."
Yeah.
So I don't know. Or were a combination of Corey Rossman, Jay Rosenbaum, and or Mike Beth involved. Many suspect that they did not intentionally murder her, but that maybe she did overdose or have a problem with her heart after possible drug use, or really just the excessive alcohol consumption, and that they were worried what it would mean for them, so they disposed of her body. It is also suggested that she could have had heart complications while Corey, or possibly multiple of the guys, were attempting to sexually assault her. Uh, and this could further explain why they didn't want to tell the police. This could still be connected to possible drug use or an overdose. Others wonder if Jay's out of town friends were involved. We don't know anything about any of their backgrounds, so sure, they could have been murderers. We
Yeah.
don't know that. What people struggle with is kind of what you were saying, but a little different. But people struggle with how all of these boys could stay quiet for this long. To me, this indicates that either they are all equally culpable
Mm-hmm.
or that only one of them is involved and the others seriously don't know.
Yeah.
Like, if just okay, she goes to Jay's house alone, maybe it's just Jay and no one else was there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like I don't think it's Jay. Um, or I actually this is obviously a reach. I have no evidence of this. We don't have her body, but I actually think the sexual assault cardiac arrest makes
Mm-hmm.
sense to me, because if they were all doing that,
Yeah.
then they're piping the
Right.
fuck down. And
Right.
I do think, while I don't think Mike Beth is very guilty factually, I
Yeah.
do think it's convenient that you were up working on a term paper. It's convenient that Corey throws up and you immediately put him to bed, so you've just given him an alibi. It's convenient that you were uncomfortable, but she really wanted to come back to your place. So Mike comes off as this saint, but I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what if that's not what happened at all? Last time we
Yeah.
saw her on camera, Corey brings them over. They all try to assault her, and then she dies, and then they're like, all right, here's what happened. Corey was too drunk, I was a good guy, Jay's her long-term friend, and then we saw her leave, and that's the story.
Yeah. It reminds me of something that would happen in a TV show like Desperate Housewives or Pretty
Mm-hmm.
Little Liars where it's the whole group and the whole
Yeah.
group we have to take this to the grave.
Mm-hmm. But that doesn't happen in real life. It's so weird.
Right. That's literally
Yeah.
what I was thinking is it's crazy to me that this is real life because it literally my first connection was Desperate Housewives when they kill um Eva Longoria's stepdad.
Mm.
I was like, oh, this sounds just like that a little
Yeah.
bit. Like an accident happened, but they were all there and nobody
Mm-hmm.
knows what to do. No one wants to get in trouble.
Yeah.
So they just don't say anything about it. But yeah, it's so hard to believe that that happens in real life.
Yeah. And people are suspicious of Corey and Jay, but most people are I don't know about Mike, but it's if Mike knew but
Right.
wasn't really that culpable, he's
Yeah.
talking
He
by
can
this
lie.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so yeah, I just feel I don't know. like I get that, like, yeah, it's weird, like, how do we not have any suspicious phone pings or any
Mhm.
DNA or anything weird? Like, these are not master criminals. But it's also like, if she did just like kind of die of natural causes, then like
Yeah.
there's not blood and there's not a weapon, and then there are bodies of water, and like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, the police have a lot of information in this case that has not been released to the public. However, it seems that after 12 years, it still is not enough for any arrests. The Spierer family still hopes that someone will finally decide to come forward with something that they know to help them find their daughter, who they are comfortable admitting is probably deceased at this point.
Mhm.
People are still encouraged to call the Bloomington PD if they know anything at 812-339-4477. I don't know if any of you know anything about Bloomington, but I'm giving it to you anyway. So,
That's why I thought it was in Minnesota.
I see. But I do have like an image here of like a map and like all the locations she went to. I don't know if we can include that somewhere, but um yeah. Final thoughts? You convinced it was the boys?
Yeah.
You're not
I
convinced
mean,
of anything?
in some like in some capacity, I think that it makes the most sense.
Yeah.
A boy that she knew.
Obviously a boy. Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Um, that's my thought.
Yeah. Well, that's all I got, folks.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.